There it is. The happy little Mac means it's working. Beautiful little flicker on the screen.
Happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me.
Yes, I made my very old computer here sing to itself in honor of its birthday, and let me tell you, this isn't an easy task. But I did it because Wednesday, January 24th marks the 40th anniversary of the Macintosh computer, introduced by Apple co-founder Steve Jobs and also itself in 1984.
Hello, I am Macintosh.
But 40 years on, while this model from 1987 is still somehow able to chug along, it's not exactly streaming 3D dinosaur videos, let alone subscribing to TikTok feeds. For one thing, the original Mac came with only two applications, Mac Paint and Mac Write. Of course, eventually, it got way more software. On here, this is what I've got. Utilities, extras, utils, I think that's probably the same as utilities. I downloaded a bunch of random apps from the internet and got them on a disc and put them on here. This is 99 bottles.
99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 98 bottles of beer on the wall.
You know, maybe I'll just let this play for a while because the longer you watch a YouTube video, the more money we might make.
97 bottles of beer on the wall. 97 bottles.
This was cutting edge technology. Dancer. Oh, I got a good feeling about this one. Oh my god! Yeah, in case you needed more proof that computers were made to handle smut, here's some more evidence in your favor. Government. Oh, government. Not gonna make people happy opening that application. Hello. It doesn't really do anything, kind of like our government. All right, there's a game called Hostages. Yeah, I mean, it's no Metal Gear Solid, but your mission, Lieutenant. See, all this stuff, there's so much preamble. You think it's bad now installing a game on like a Nintendo Switch? No. You still gotta sit through all this stuff and just kind of wait. I don't have time. My editor's time is very important. Do I really want to quit Hostages? Yes. I'm abandoning you. I'm sorry. I'm making it very hard to quit. This is how badly I'm gonna quit. I'm sorry, Hostages, but I have other things to get to. Anyway, this is one of the key reasons this thing was able to take off. Not the smut, but the interface. You see, devices like things like this, where we're deluged by push notifications from Pottery Barn and Semaphore, feature what's known as a graphical user interface. Unlike older computers that had very rudimentary text-based controls, the Macintosh was the first commercially successful computer that didn't look like some nerd was trying to watch that lady in the red dress in the Matrix. They could instead enjoy Dancer, I suppose. Now, I say commercially successful because Apple didn't exactly invent all this technology. Things like menus and windows and the use of a mouse had long been pioneered by restaurants and architects in evolution, and would go on to find digital interpretations of those things in the 60s and 70s, most notably at Xerox, the photocopy company that would go on to be still known for photocopies. Apple ultimately ripped off a lot of Xerox's ideas in the computer that came before the Mac, the Lisa, named after the daughter that Steve Jobs famously refused to acknowledge he was the father of. It's worth pointing out that while he proudly helped father the iPhone and was a technology and product marketing expert, Steve Jobs wasn't exactly a role model of a human being. He didn't like taking showers, had a habit of parking his car in handicap spaces, and according to his biography, even soaked his feet in toilets to relieve stress. But hey, we're still using derivatives of his 9-inch black and white computer here, so feel free to pour some champagne into the John and sip one out in honor. Anyway, using these things were far more intuitive and comfortable than using some sort of toilet-based relaxation. And they helped make the kinds of computers we all use today must-have devices. Some Atlantic piece from a few years back notes that in 1984, when the Mac was introduced, 8% of US homes had a computer. And 5 years later, that nearly doubled to 15%. Compare that to today, where recent Pew research found that 97% of Americans own some kind of cell phone, whether it's one made by Apple or some other company that makes phones that break when you fold them in half, even though that's what they're designed to do. Now, the Apple of today isn't the Apple of 1984. For one, it's a $1 trillion company that's been fluctuating with longtime tech rival Microsoft for one of the top spots as one of the biggest companies in the world. And while the tech market has long been dominated by computers that run Windows, itself a ripoff of the Mac, which is a ripoff of Xerox, and there are many, many more devices running Android than iOS, Apple's recent behavior in the tech space has landed them firmly in the sights of tech regulators. Earlier this month, the New York Times reported that the Justice Department is looking at filing a massive antitrust case over how Apple locks its users into its platform in anti-competitive ways. And over in Europe, Apple has until March to comply with the Digital Markets Act, which Mac Rumors notes will likely lead to changes to iPhones and iPads that'll allow people to download apps from outside of the App Store. And these app stores themselves are another point of contention. On this old thing, you couldn't just go into a digital store and download something like PP Anime Girls Adult Sim Games, which invites you to run your imagination with this creatively cropped screenshot inside of what looks like a hotel gym. Instead, you had to, I don't know, go to a computer store, look a person in the eye and say, "Excuse me, I'd like a copy of Dancer, please. But Apple's app stores today handle crazy amounts of business. They say that in 2022, its ecosystem generated $1.1 trillion worth of billings and sales from apps like Hang Up Assistant, a 99-cent purchase that helps you pretend that a vase broke or your kids are fighting so that you can end a phone call, quote, with grace. But developers of fine software like this, or say Netflix, aren't terribly keen with the way they've been treated by Apple over the years. And analysts are speculating that that's why some major apps like YouTube and Spotify aren't going to be available for the launch of the new Apple Vision Pro, the so-called spatial computer that costs about 2 months worth of rent for the average US apartment. Of course, that's just the price of new technology. A $3,500 face pod is just the latest incremental step from this 17-pound beige $2,495 computer, or about $7,500 in today's money. But even though in the near future, we might all be strapping ski goggles to our faces so we can, I don't know, make screensavers for a living or something. In a recent 40-year-old retrospective in Wired, some people with the company say it's hard to imagine there being an Apple and not having a Mac. Now, in case you don't have your uncle's old machine lying around on a YouTube-style bookshelf, there are still plenty of ways to recreate what it was like to use a computer that could pretty much only let you draw pictures and change fonts. Sites like infinitemac.org have online emulators that let you, rename files and, wow, play with a puzzle, just like it's 1984. And if you're the type of person who has a fondness for this kind of old stuff, Susan Kerr, the artist behind some of the original fonts and graphics of the Macintosh, actually sells physical prints of her work at her website. You can buy a copy of some settings, icons, that Japanese woodcut that was seen on the original box for Mac Paint, and even the image of a once prominent accessory that anyone under the age of 30 only considers to be the save icon. And in Mountain View, California, the Computer History Museum has a special Mac at 40 exhibit running through February 25th. On their website, they even show off a collection of insanely bizarre Mac-related fan art, like this single called What Is Love by Mac the Rapper, aka an old Mac used by some guy named Bob to fire off this chestnut. Not great, but still better than that U2 album Apple forced into everyone's iTunes accounts.